Yo guys, it's Slyroh. You already know that today I'm going to be bringing you a ranking video where I will be ranking all of the Colossi from Shadow of the Colossus. This game has taken me on a roller coaster of emotions, both good and bad, but I figured that this would be the perfect way to finish off all of the Shadow of the Colossus gameplay on my channel, is to just rank all of the Colossi from my least favorite to my favorite. This list will involve a complex behind-the-scenes algorithm that includes boss design, boss arena, normal mode, hard mode, time trials, and all of that jumbles together to basically just make a list of which ones I find the least fun to which ones I find the most fun. Yes, this is just going to be my personal subjective opinion. I would love to hear yours down in the comments below, but let's go ahead and not waste some time and let's just talk about all of these great Colossi. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe, but you already know about doing that, so let's go ahead and get on with the list. Coming in at number 16 is going to be CELOSIA. This shouldn't come as a big shock. This is most people's least favorite Colossi, and for good reason. The fact that you can get stun locked to death without being able to do anything about it kinda sucks. The fact that you eventually get left to RNG as to whether or not you're able to hit him on the back and whether he even comes up back around into the temple like where he's supposed to go, it's not really under your control. I'm always so close to being able to make an excuse in this guy's favor, but every time I fight him he just does something different that makes me angry. Thankfully I got lucky with the time trials that I've done with him. Usually I get lucky when I fight him, but the fact that I have to rely on luck and I can't rely on actually just being skillful at the game is going to drop him as the lowest, because I just think that they messed up a little bit with making a well-designed, fully fun boss fight here. Number 15 is going to be Argus, the 15th Colossus. And if you've heard me talk about this guy before, this shouldn't come as much of a shock. I don't really like fighting Colossi that rely on you triggering a very specific thing to get them to do something, to then you can capitalize on that and do damage, and Argus just has so many ridiculous things that you have to do. It's not that it's necessarily hard. It is hard to figure out when you don't know, but even when you do know, it's just kind of annoying to figure out. The only things that Argus has going for him is he's got a cool boss arena, he's got a fantastic design, love the bone sword, but outside of that, the actual fight, the actual gameplay mechanics, and the amount of fun that I have fighting him just dwindles every single time I have to fight him. So yeah, number 15 for me. We're going to go ahead and move from negative territory to meh territory, as number 14 is going to be MALUS, the very first Colossus in the game. It's kind of just there to show you how to play the game and how to fight Colossi in general. It's a good intro to the game. You get a good sense as to what the game is going to throw at you, but once you do it once, there's not much more. No, I take that back. Once you do it for the first time, and then the first time you do a time trial, I do find that the time window to be pretty tight, so it can be somewhat rewarding to beat the time trial for the first time, but after that, there's no real value in playing against MALUS basically ever again. So he's fine, it's a good introduction to the game, but everything else in the game just improves upon what MALUS offers, so I had to drop him here at 14. And in a similar vein, number 13 is going to be QUADRATUS. He does the same thing as the first Colossus, except for he shows you more about using the bow and arrow and doing that sort of stuff, but it is really simple. I do like that he kind of comes out of the wall. It's very fun. When he topples over, climbing up him is pretty satisfying, but he doesn't really offer much, and I feel like a lot of the other four-legged Colossi offer more of either a puzzle or a challenge or something else besides QUADRATUS. QUADRATUS is just the first one that you see. It's pretty cool, it's a good introduction, but again, it's going to be kind of this like meh territory because it doesn't offer as much as some of the other ones that improve upon what QUADRATUS brings later on in the game. Coming in at number 12 is going to be BASARAN. I debated of where I wanted to put BASARAN because there are plenty of times that I fight him and I don't have that much fun. I think sometimes messing with the camera as you have to manage running away from BASARAN and moving left and right while also trying to get him lined up over a geyser can be annoying, but the more that I do it, the less trouble I have, and also just the weightiness that BASARAN has when you do shoot the arrows at the feet and then he falls over, just the impact that he has on the ground, it's so cool. And just like the boss arena as well, with it being like dark and foggy or whatever you would consider that, you know, it just looks so cool. Then when you climb up, you just feel so powerful. I just think that the presentation of the boss is going to raise it above QUADRATUS because it does bring more in that aspect. But I can definitely understand if you have a lot of issues lining up the geysers and whatnot, that he can be pretty annoying. But I think he ends up being just fine. Coming in at number 11 for me is going to be MALUS. And for similar reasons as the last one, Malus is mostly here because of the presentation factor. You play through the whole game, and you enter into this boss arena, and just the size and presence that Malus brings is not comparable to any of the other Colossi that you meet. Just trying to approach him while he's throwing the fireballs at you is really intense. Just trying to climb up him is very intense. I do have some issue with trying to grab onto certain surfaces, and sometimes if you run out of stamina or something, the fall can be really, really demoralizing. So there are definitely some things that I don't like about Malus, but I do think that the finality, the presentation, and just the presence that Malus brings is done really, really well, and I think he serves as a really good final Colossus for the game, even though I don't generally think that he's super fun to fight over and over again after that. Number 10 for me is going to be PHAEDRA. I think PHAEDRA's pretty cool, though the novelty of what he brings to the table kind of wears off after the first time you do it, because you just have to lure him out to the center, hide in a tunnel, and then there's just a lot of waiting. I don't think waiting is the most fun video game mechanic, but I think PHAEDRA kind of makes up for it just with the design, and then once you get on top of PHAEDRA, I love the sort of shimmy that he does. I love just trying to get up to the head and attacking him, using the weak spot, all that sort of stuff. On hard mode, you have the shoulder sigils, which I did find out can be kind of dangerous because I played around and messed around, fell off, and got jabbed right through with his front leg thing. So, you know, it isn't all super safe and beginner friendly, but he is generally fine. But I do like the design, and the arena's fine. The waiting is kind of a negative for it, but besides that, everything else is pretty good. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty good one to start off the top 10 here. Number 9 for me is going to be BARBA. BARBA gives off a really, really good first impression as he just kind of busts through the wall. You see this giant beard, and this thing comes at you fast. You gotta be running. And I really like that. I love the aggressiveness that BARBA brings that is a little different than a lot of the other Colossi. I just really enjoy this fight. This is a pretty fun one to do over and over again because it doesn't generally take that long. But it isn't super walk in the park because of how aggressive he is. He also kind of moves around a lot when you're on certain spots on his body as well. So I do find this a fun fight to go to over and over again. If you're doing it repeatedly, it can be a little annoying to run away and jump over the walls to get him to go over to the other side. But I generally don't have that bad of a time, and I just feel like he's perfectly fun, and that's why he ends up in the middle, because he's just perfectly fun. He doesn't offer anything like over the top amazing that some of the other ones do. But there's really nothing bad to say about BARBA at all. Number 8 is going to be CENOBIA, and I debated on if I wanted to put CENOBIA this high because I think there is a similar argument that I can make that once you do the platforming section, or once you do all of the platforming one time or two times, doing it over and over again probably can be a little annoying. I also have had some personal problems with its AI like working with me, and sometimes it just doesn't respond and I have to kind of reset the fights sometimes. But I just generally have a fun time. I do enjoy doing the little platforming sections and jumping from pillar to pillar and doing all that. I also just enjoy CENOBIA having a mechanic that if you fall off of CENOBIA, you can easily get back on. You can get CENOBIA stunned for just a couple seconds to get a stab in, which is a much better improved design over CELOSIA because they're like the same shape, but CENOBIA is done just so much better. And I think maybe the comparison also vaults him up a little bit more. I also just love the arena. I mean, there's so many pillars and structures and things that you can do. Watching him charge into the pillars and different structures and knocking all the rocks down, it just looks really cool. And I generally just have a lot of fun. He's also really easy to get a plant off of, which means that I can get on top of him and just get easy stabs without having to worry. And I feel like that happens a lot. I don't know if that really should be a plus, but it ensures that I almost always have a fun time fighting him, so that's good enough for me. Coming in at number 7 for me is going to be GAIUS. GAIUS is pretty cool, and the main thing that sets him apart from the ones that we've mentioned so far is that he still offers a challenge on repeated playthroughs. The challenge might be a bit too much, but I do appreciate that after the 3rd or 4th time of playing through this game, GAIUS still gives me a lot of trouble, and if I'm not under the time restraint, I do find the challenge to be fun and exciting, and I feel really accomplished when I beat GAIUS. The time trial, especially the hard mode time trial, can be a bit much. However, I do still get that same sense of accomplishment when I do win. But I do think that there are some things that could be improved with Gaius, specifically on hard mode. I think he can be a bit much, but since it's one of the few ones that offer a challenge unlike a lot of the others on repeated attempts, I gotta give him props for that. Gaius is the first Colossus that really kind of gives you an extra puzzle to solve that is not, it's past the beginning stages, you know what the game's about, and then it's going to add extra things for you to do. He looks pretty cool, he's really tall and intimidating, he's got that awesome like sword arm thing, the fact that there's different ways to approach how you deal with him, whether you want to break the arm guard or not. It's pretty cool. I like Gaius a lot, but he can be frustrating. I wouldn't want to continue to face him over and over again for a long period of time, but in short bursts or every so often, he's still pretty good, so I gotta put him up here. Coming in at number 6 for me is going to be Pelagia. Pelagia, with my last attempt, really gave me a rough time. The thing with Pelagia is that you are at the mercy of its AI to sort of work with you, and the amount of times that I have to try and get Pelagia to actually, like, jump up on the thing so I can jump onto its stomach is kind of insane. I think Pelagia's hard mode time trial is probably my least favorite, but I love the design, I love the arena in a normal playthrough, or normal or hard mode. It's so much fun. I didn't have nearly as much trouble fighting Pelagia in any other sort of format. Normal mode time trial was also just fine. It was just a hard mode time trial where it's just like, it didn't want to work with me. But when Pelagia's AI is working with you, it's so much fun. Getting up on top of the head and then like striking the teeth to direct Pelagia to get you to the certain island structures. It's a lot of fun, it's really cool, it's really unique, and I enjoy fighting Pelagia as long as its AI is working with me, which it does like 90% of the time. So I had to give it its props here, and I put it up at this spot on the list. My 5th favorite Colossus in the game is going to be Dirge. Dirge is a sand snake that comes at you, and again, the only real negatives that I have for Dirge is sometimes the camera can be a little weird because you have to run sort of towards the screen, and the amount of times that I accidentally run into a random rock or like the wall is more times than I'd like to admit. So it can be a little annoying, even if that is a little bit more on the player side and less the design side. But I do think that the timing window for being able to shoot Dirge in the eye on hard mode can be a bit tight, especially when you have to aim so specifically while you're like moving on aggro, and it can be a bit much, but I love the arena, having Dirge come out, just like poking his eye out, and just seeing this giant sand snake just coming at you with this glowing eye is so cool. I don't know if there's any single better visual in this entire game. I think it just looks so cool. It is a lot of fun once you actually do hit it. It's just so neat to be able to like see it crash into the wall, go up and like stab it. Every part of the fight is still fun. It's a decent challenge on time trials. It's just fun to play through a normal playthrough, and I always have a good time fighting Dirge, so I had to start off the top 5 with him. From the land to the sea, my number 4 is going to be HYDRUS, which is a water snake. An electric eel is a better comparison. The only negatives I have for HYDRUS is sometimes the depth perception makes it hard for me to figure out where I can actually grab. But generally at this point, now that I've played it through a few times, I don't have that issue as much. And just the feeling of when you grab on and then you're just getting pulled through the water, it's so cool. Trying to turn off all the electricity and stab the sigil and completely do it in one go is such a satisfying feeling, and it's so much fun to try and do. I'm not even sure if it's possible to do on hard mode, but I remember when I played on hard mode, I got pretty close, and so it's just really fun to run up and try and turn off the electricity and just kind of fight with it. It's a lot of fun. I like the setting. I like the setting in the water. I like just trying to grab on and fight it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I do love the design as well. The electricity that you can just feel that you can just see as it's like in the distance, and then as you get closer, you can just feel how like intimidating and like scary that is. It works so well, and I just think I really just like it a lot. Number 3 actually surprised me with how high this ended up, as number 3 is going to be KUROMORI. I didn't used to have as high of an opinion on KUROMORI as I do right now, but as I've gone through repeated playthroughs, I find that it's still so much fun to go back and fight KUROMORI. The Colosseum and the level, the boss arena, is one of the best in the entire game. It just looks so cool visually. You really are just in like a Colosseum fighting against like another warrior of sorts. Trying to get it to come up and then like knock it down is so much fun, and just jumping from the top right onto him is a feeling that is just unmatched in this entire game. It can be a little bit annoying, I guess, once you get down there, specifically on hard mode, trying to figure out like how high you can go, and specifically the time trial where you're in a time crunch to see how much you can get away with, how high you can go, how much you could fall before taking too much damage, things like that. But I do find that it's still challenging, but not too hard, and nothing really seems unfair. Most of the issues that I've had fighting Kuromori have been on me, usually my lack of skill, and I acknowledge that. And if I'm looking at a list of these and being like, which one would I want to go back and fight now, like Kuromori is very high up there, because I just feel like I can get something, I can have fun, and I don't always have to do the exact same thing. You're basically doing the same thing, but there are different little things that you can try and do to make it feel fresh and fun, and I just really like that. So yeah, that's going to be my number 3. Number 2 for me is going to be PHALANX. I know I just said it, but the feeling of jumping onto PHALANX's wing when you're going full speed riding alongside it is a feeling that's almost unmatched in this entire game. That's another one that really stands out in my mind. The only issue I've ever had with PHALANX is sometimes not being able to see where my arrow is going when I shoot it, and then I like miss the sacks or whatever. But that's really it. The presentation is really good, just this vast desert with PHALANX flying around. Once you get on top, just like getting to like its flaps and trying to get the sigils. This is another one where just trying to get all of them in one go is really fun to try and do. It's generally on normal mode. I don't even think it's possible on hard mode, but just the process of like getting onto PHALANX, climbing up, getting over, is just like a lot of fun. And there's also like an extra little mini game for me personally, where you try to not take too much damage on hard mode when he starts descending and you're gonna like hit the ground. I always just find it really funny that no matter what I do, I end up hitting the ground, and then water just takes like a 5-minute nap. So that's always fun. And I legitimately mean that. But yeah, generally just PHALANX is a lot of fun. It looks really cool, and is pretty great, and did nothing wrong. So that's gonna be number 2. And if you've been keeping track, by process of elimination, my number 1 favorite Colossus in the game is AVION. AVION was my favorite Colossus when I first played the game, and it has not really moved from that spot since. Again, the feeling of jumping onto AVION as it is charging towards you, or flying towards you, jumping onto that wing is just like a feeling that is almost unmatched in any other part of the game. The sense of speed that you feel as it's flying around, the visuals of when it flaps its wings and then you're like on the underside, like hanging for dear life. Visually, it's just so cool. I love the design. It's fairly easy, but also the time trials can be fairly tight time window depending on how well you do. And it's another one that you can kind of have some fun trying to see, like, oh, can I fall from the wing to the middle? Can I fall from one wing to the other wing? You can kind of mess around and have some fun, and you don't necessarily have to do the exact same thing every single run through, even though it is pretty similar. But I just have a fun time every single time, and if I do fall off, then I can just shoot him again, and I get that feeling of being able to jump onto a full speed flying bird colossi running at you, and I just love that feeling. It's so cool, and yeah, that's why it's my favorite in the entire game. So that has been my list of all of the Colossi ranked from my least favorite to my most favorite. I would love to hear what yours are in the comments below, or you can just make fun of my opinions, whatever you want to do. The floor is all yours. I've enjoyed playing and talking about Shadow of the Colossus on this channel, but this is going to be it for me. However, obviously, subscribe for more content. There's going to be plenty of stuff for you to see and do. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all around. Until then, peace out.